Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm your co-host, Kristin Sokoloff, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ronnie Ward. Ron, how's it going today?
It's going great, Kristin. It's such a highlight being your co-host. Kristin booked another conference. Coaching is going well. And I'm very excited. Very blessed. What's going on with you?
Oh, just a lot of things and too much to detail out, just like you. I know, just scratching the surface.
Have to do a whole episode?
I know. Yeah, there's a lot going on, but exciting stuff, as always. But I'm really excited about today's podcast episode discussion because this is something you and I have both dealt with. And one of our most popular episodes was about Burnout. And so we're dealing with one of Burnout's cousins, Burnout, if not the matriarch.
No, you're right. And Kristin, in these leadership arenas and talking to people, burnout is rampant. Yeah. And I just pulled some stats. We'll do this on another episode, but we got our executive coaching call tomorrow night. That's where all the executive coaches, the certified coaches, come together. Yeah. And I'm going to be explaining how much of a dynamic it was before the pandemic to after. We're talking like 80% of people have increased in virtual meetings. And everyone thinks that's great, but there's people just dying inside, stuck at home. All these virtual meetings, there's a convergent vision, it's called, where you converge in one spot, and it's creating cortisol. And we're going to get into all that, but it all contributes to burnout. And I just love this episode, and we hope that if you're experiencing this, listen closely. We want to help you.
Yeah, I mean, it's to your point, it's hitting almost every industry right now. And it's just not burnout in general. We're diving into the jobs in this episode that are experiencing it the most. And some of these aren't surprising, but some actually are. When we were doing our research, I was like, I didn't quite see that one coming.
I'll tell you what, Chris, why don't you give us, what are the top 10 jobs where people report being burned out?
Okay, so this one did not surprise me. Government public health workers. I mean, come on. There's always the demand. There's never a break. There's always so many changing parts, right? So much going on there. They're always overextended. Were you surprised about that one?
No. I mean, maybe at number one. I thought it would be ICE agents would be number one.
Yeah, seriously.
Border Patrol. I did.
Oh, my gosh.
I wonder how recent, we got these from, I think, ChatGPT, but I thought ICE and Border Patrol would be number one. But I'm not surprised that public health workers are.
If there was one done today, I think we would probably see those up there. This one's a few months old. But and then the other one, this one also did not surprise me, K through 12 teachers. My dad was a K through 12 teacher. He came home with little patience to then have to do homework with us. So, I mean, that's exhausting.
Yeah, and my daughter, because my grandson's 6, occasionally gets in trouble at school. And but the system, how when you have these trends, or some people call it woke, you got all of these educators and you got these psychologists who are writing all these publications and telling them how to discipline kids. It's not working. It's just not working. I told my daughter, I said, if you're going to read something, make sure it's before 2010 at minimum. Pull you out a good old 1980, 90 book and do that. Anyway.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Insane.
I digress.
This one is more along the lines of what I think people would typically understand. EMS, clinicians, paramedics, EMTs, high burnout with those folks, understandably.
Yeah, keep going.
That's, attorneys and lawyers. That one surprised me, actually.
Let me tell you why it didn't me. Before I retired, we started getting an attorney in almost every new officer class because attorneys have become abundant.
Oh, so they left they left their law career.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They liked that federal retirement. They liked a lot of them never even started. They went to law school to help them get into. It was really hard to get in the system at the time I was leaving, but we would have an attorney at least every other class. But the competition's rampant. You got to find ways to stand out. It's almost like real estate and some of the other occupations. So I was not surprised. And then, the complexity of the research. Like, we only see lawyers in court, and it's cool and fun.
Yeah.
But that's not what lawyers do. It's all the research.
It's the
hours
research, the not
hours.
sexy behind the scenes stuff.
The first time I did a stakeout, right, I was all excited.
Yeah.
And I have an air fryer personality, so I'm sitting in the car, 15 minutes go by and we haven't seen a perp.
Yeah.
I'm bored. I'm like, I think we should swing by McDonald's. Do you think we should? Seriously.
Oh my gosh. I'm like you, Ron. I have the same personality, and I did a ride along with my husband over 10 years ago. And he was like, okay, we can either do this call or this call. And one of them was like a stakeout for like a perp, right? Like they had like where it's all the zoned out. I don't know all the technical terminology. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. Oh my gosh, just sitting there. I was like, this is so boring. Can we change? She goes, we committed to this. We can't change. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I almost peed my pants too.
Kristin,
it's horrible.
For the sake of our listeners, I'm so embarrassed to tell a story, but we got a lead that this manufacturing plant, very small time when I say that because it was a rural area, but it was going to get broken into. Good solid lead. So I am the lead on it. So I have to camp in this place. Like I got to sleep inside waiting on someone to break in.
Oh.
Yeah. And I had to bring different people each night because, people are busy, schedules change.
Yeah.
So one night I had this guy that worked at the jail, and he was like a fanatic. He should have never went into law enforcement. But he told me to come over to his truck. He goes, I don't know if any of this was true. But he goes, they break in, we'll blow them to smithereens. That was his term. He goes, I've got rocket launchers. I've got grenades. So I looked at him and I was like, dude, leave that stuff alone. I even checked to make sure he just had one gun on him, because here's what I'm thinking.
Wait,
it's
what
dark
was his
in there.
role?
He was a jailer. That's what we used to call him, corrections officer.
Yeah, okay.
And we didn't have any other cops, so I had to use him that night. After I didn't know him, and he's giving me this. I'm waiting on a punchline, right?
Yeah,
there's no punchline.
He's
he was
dead
serious. So I had this image of some guy breaking in, this guy shooting me. You know what I mean? Like friendly fire.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, but the bad part is that he would talk so much. I know you could hear us on the outside. Yeah. Then I had another guy that stayed there, and he was a big jokester. He tripped one time, and I thought, those guys probably came to rob this place. Totally hurt us on the inside and just left.
And just left. Wait,
so we
did
told
they ever
the sheriff,
come?
No, we told the sheriff. And I spent 4 nights. Excuse me. I spent 4 nights in that place, and I was so bored. It was kind of cold. We ended up bringing this little heater, and I know you could see it from the outside. We totally blew that. If those guys were going to break in, they probably went, what is that? Oh, that's a couple cops in there.
That is crazy. I love this story.
Folks, never get Kristin and I to guard something for you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're out after like 15 minutes. No action. Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So this one also, it didn't surprise me and it did at the same time. I don't know. I should have looked up what percent actually left the industry. This is resident physicians and fellows. Ron, this is something we should look up. How many have left after all that schooling? Mm-hmm. How many actually left? I think that number is going to be much lower than, say, the one that the attorney or the lawyer.
Yeah, I've got a cousin that did one in Baton Rouge, and it is very intense. The hours are extremely long, and I think you come out of med school a little burnout as well. But now she's moving to a place in Maryland, and you get moved around. It's just it is a high pace. It's not like the good old days when the doctor would come in with the little satchel. I think you've got all these insurance issues. Yeah. You've got all these new AI is coming on the scene, 3D examinations, all this equipment. I think it's a lot now. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. And that makes sense why the next one is actual physicians. And that it's got to be a ton. And then I can imagine you feel stuck because you're in it. You've just dedicated 10, 12 years of your life to this and a lot of money. And
Kristin,
then to change, I don't know.
Yeah. And I just had lunch with a COO of a major hospital. I won't mention the name or the hospital, but he shared the same thing of all the pressures and what happens in this case is the doctors are under all this pressure. Then, of course, pressure doesn't stay inside.
Yeah.
So then they're offending staff members, nurses, those kind of things. So that's a constant problem in the medical community. Now, some of it is inexcusable, but some of it is, imagine, you're called in and you've been asleep or you didn't sleep much and you're called back in. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And then that sleep deprivation makes you crazy. The next one is nurses. Again, not a huge surprise there.
Yeah, and I know a lot of nurses. I'm sure you do as well.
Absolutely. Ahead. Then we have psychologists. Imagine being dumped on. I mean, that even happens in some coaching, right? Like you think about that, you're really having that emotional impact. The psychologist aspect, like you're hearing very negative things very
Kristin,
regularly.
I'm going to be honest with you. I coached heavily over the past few months.
Yeah.
I am taking an intentional break. I'm still coaching some, but not near to the level. Now, I'm going to hit it hard again in probably August, but I'm not actively trying to get clients right now. And I'm working on a couple other projects.
Oh, so. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have to just say, it was interesting. I did an Instagram live when we were at CPAC, and Justine and I had some time to kill, and I never do those, but we were like, let's do it. So we were just, riffing off each other. I had a bunch of people that were asking questions and saying hi, and this one girl goes, "Can I join your live?" And we were both like, what the heck? Sure. So then I put a rando into our live. I never told you this, Ron. And here I have like hundreds of people watching and they're interacting with us. And then this gal, and she was like needing like a psychologist, I think, because she was like, my dad doesn't like my political views. And it got really like heavy and dark. And then I had people that were like, what is this? What did I just tune into? And I'm like, I don't know. So then we're both like, oh, okay. And then Justine's trying to tell her to have political conversations at the table to talk it through. And I said, no, I disagree. Don't do that. It was insane.
That's terrible.
But the whole point of me sharing this is it took the vibe down. It was like, bleh. It just, we got barfed on. And so that's like what the psychologists are dealing with.
Well, there's one other thing, Kristin, literally, if I even told our listeners some issues that came up during coaching over the past few months, it's a little bit mind-boggling. And I had one coaching call at 8. I didn't have another one until 11. Then 12, then 1. What I'm saying is a lot of times in coaching, people are working. You got to work around their schedule.
Yeah.
So I would go, if I was going to eat any lunch and I'm not hungry at 11, it would be 2:30. I would get a 30-minute break. Yeah. And then I'm live again. And I don't know, I just got pretty tired. So I do get it on the psychologist part.
Yeah. Well, then you'll get the next one, the therapists and behavioral health professionals. That's what my brother-in-law does for veterans. And so that's a whole other layer of stress and listening to very deep and dark issues that people are dealing with. And then social workers. And the social workers, oh my gosh, Ron. I mean, we've all seen they're understaffed, which I don't know how because it's government, but they're always understaffed. They're burnt out. They see horrible things, lots of paper pushing. I mean, the ones that deal with the children, right? Like, there's just so much.
Child Protective Services is horrendous. And we used to get a lot of, especially state probation officers from social work, Child Protective Services. But when you said budget, state budgets aren't like federal. Most states that I know of, they always have a shortage. And the problem is, that's why Chris and I are trying to promote retention. We want to help you with retention because it is a long process in any form of government when someone leaves and you have to replace them. Someone else suffers. It happens all the time.
Yeah, that's true. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I just think of all the, the tax dollars going, but you're right, that mostly is the federal level. Yeah, because that makes sense. They're always understaffed. And that's why when you see these abuse cases and we see documentaries on them, like, why was this child? CPS was there 4 times, right? It's, not to make excuses for those oversights, but it's also like when you have work for 5 people and you're just the one person working through it, you are going to move faster. And certain things you're not going to be able to sink your teeth into as much.
And there's one other common denominator, folks, with those jobs that Kristin read, and that's almost all of those work with people. And even my daughter, works in HOA, and she comes home really frustrated because, you got people who they're not understanding. They don't understand your role. They think you should be doing everything. And I shouldn't say this, but Kristin, I say everything we shouldn't say. She says it's a lot of the people that move from up north, the Northeast.
It's a different,
Jersey,
totally
New
different.
York. She said they just come in, they're demanding. And they probably, are a little condescending toward the South, I think, still. And I've had multiple real estate agents and everything. They go, oh, my God, I've got a client from New York, and I have to explain to them we don't do business that way.
Yeah, it's very different, especially real estate. I'm married to a New Yorker, so yeah, I hear you have to get an attorney when you sell a home. It's like insane. It's very different. I don't understand it, but yeah, I could see the people working with people. I mean, even in banking, I worked with people for 25 years, right? Like that's
exactly.
And when I went back office and just managed the division, that was a lot easier. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Folks, stay with us. I know we've rambled a little here, but we are going to look at an aspect of burnout that no one talks about. They usually just talk about the burnout itself or the symptoms, but we're going to go beyond that. We're going to look at a little bit of neuroscience and psychology. So do not leave this episode. It's very important. So there's a pattern. There's 3 things that we're seeing. We're seeing high emotional demand. Your emotions are attached to those careers. High responsibility. When you're responsible for other people's lives, that's a lot of pressure. And then low control. Most of these people in the day-to-day, they don't have control of the agency. They're just a peon who's out there trying to survive and trying to help people. And I think it all weighs in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's that emotional demand. Like you said, you're constantly dealing with other people's stress, their problems, and pain, especially with those medical industry ones, right?
Yeah, and folks, I've never heard anyone explain this, but your brain doesn't necessarily separate your stress from someone else's. It will absorb it. And that's why people, and when you go through training, we talk a lot about the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex. You have to train yourself to build up a wall. I think you said in a previous episode, Kristin, we can't take on the world's problems. We're not equipped for that.
We're not.
And even in your social media world, like I've wondered how you don't burn out, because there's times that I post and ghost, to use your term. I post and walk away. How do you keep from burning out while we're on the subject?
Yeah. No, I think for me, it becomes, I hate to say mechanical. I've been doing it for a while. So you build a callus almost, like a mental callus.
No, that's true. It's true.
Yeah. And so that's where like I'm going through news. So I'm like going through it. And if I have a physical response, right now I'm looking for the most absurd. So I want to make people laugh through the truths of what's happening, the absurdity aspect. And so I'm just like, I see myself as just putting news out there for my audience, and I'm trying to guard them in a sense right now. So I'm putting out more like maybe humorous stuff, but it's that mental callus. I don't know, Ron. It's not for everyone. I'll tell you that much.
No, you've conditioned yourself to. Yeah. And there's a fourth wall aspect. You're not dealing with a person, a live person.
Correct.
You're dealing in social media, so there is a little bit of a barrier there. So I get that. But it's still a special. It takes a special person to do that.
It does, because I'll post something that I think is humorous and absurd. I mean, these are all real things, right? Like, it's the reality of what's happening out there. But I get a kick out of it, and then I'll have people be like, "Oh my gosh, that makes me so mad," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I kind of just laughed and moved on," right? Like, so the people were different. We're definitely different. Some of us think it's absurd, and we just are able to move on with our day, and some are not.
And what's sad is that children, when people are fighting and throwing things and doing all this stuff in the home, children are not equipped to handle that.
No.
So it has a trauma-inducing element, and then there's trauma responses. A lot of kids are misbehaving because there's chaos in their world, and that's their outlet. So we won't get too deep into that, but the psychology of burnout is very interesting, and a lot of it is about the way you grew up and the things around you. But we're going to bring in something, folks, that I think is going to help you understand burnout a little bit more in just a minute.
Oh, absolutely. Should we move into the leadership problem here?
Let's do.
And I think that's really where not a lot of people go here. And so is burnout the job? I mean, I just listed a bunch of jobs that experience burnout at a higher level, or is it the leadership, Ron?
Yeah, and we would strongly argue that it's the leadership. Burnout isn't just workload. It's mismanaged environments. Sometimes it's mismanaged resources. Mm-hmm. And as we said, you got the hardworking people, but the system is not supporting them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, can you dive into that a little deeper?
Yeah. So people can handle hard work. There's people that do it every day. What they can't handle is unclear expectations, no support, no recognition, no control. And that's why I even joked about ICE. It really wasn't a joke. I think it would have to be high up. Can you imagine when you're a public enemy like that and you've hired on? I'm sure most of these guys hired on. They wanted to work for the federal government, federal law enforcement, and now you're in this situation. Also, in most agencies and companies, you have very little control. And I think the lack of buy-in and the lack of being able to present your ideas is definitely something that contributes to burnout.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. And, back to the ICE thing, even just my husband being a Portland police officer, he'll come home. And this is where the mental callus is so important. He'll come home and tell me these stories that, I was just sitting at the corner, like ready, waiting for the light to turn green. And someone just goes, Matthew. But, but they're out of 10. And he like laughs so hard because he's like, how do you live life like out of 10? Like, he's like, I'm doing nothing, but they just are screaming like, and so he'll come home and tell me, and I don't know if it's his delivery or what, but I end up laughing so hard I'm in tears. But he has that mental callus. Now, it stayed with him enough for him to tell me about it, right?
That's
so
true.
It's not that it didn't bother him whatsoever, because then it wouldn't have come up hours later at home.
Well, unless he wanted to entertain you. I mean,
he knows that I love all this stuff. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I want to hear the crazy stories. But anyhow, it's just wild. And going back to the leadership, it's not always the pressure. It's like the misalignment also. I don't think enough people reflect on that.
No, it is. And burnout happens when demand exceeds support, clarity, and control. These people feel so out of control. They feel lost.
Yeah, that's a really tough position to be in. And I know, we've talked about this before, but when I have felt out of control is when I didn't have feedback. And so then it's like, it's a vacuum, right? If you don't know, if you don't have clear expectations, if you don't have reporting showing you where you're ranking, right? Like I always knew in sales where I was, because I had sales reports showing that I was at the top, because I was always at the top. But anyhow, when I didn't have something like that, then you're left to say, oh, am I achieving? Is my manager happy with my performance? Is there something I should be working on? Right? Like it leaves you to a very uncomfortable place to be.
I was always at the bottom because I didn't want to make my colleagues feel bad.
Ron, I have to tell you, when I got switched over from when I was a banker and I got moved from one branch to a new branch, so, new group of women and a few dudes, I was a really good salesperson. And so I was getting like 10, 12 sales a day. And one of the girls who was like the lead teller, she came up to me and she's like, you're making us look bad. And I was like, I thought she was kidding.
Yeah.
And so I like laughed it off. She goes, no, I'm serious. And I go, oh, I don't know what to tell you, And so she wanted me to dumb down my sales. Hell no. You think I'm going to do that and be in your miserable boat? No. But that really does happen. There's some
it does.
bullying. I'm immune to that. But that true story.
So let's delve into my favorite topic. Let's look at a little bit of neuroscience.
Yes.
There's a lot of talk about cortisol. Cortisol isn't necessarily an enemy, but cortisol in higher doses is. It is the stress hormone. Now, there's eustress, de-stress. Eustress is that good stuff. You're coming out of the locker room. You're fired up.
Yeah.
You get to do a podcast with me, Kristin. It's eustress.
Oh, yeah.
De-stress is a different story. And that's where the negative parts of the stress hormone comes in. And you keep cortisol elevated, then it leads to fatigue and brain fog and irritability, all those things that people describe all the time. Then we drink coffee like crazy, which masks it for like 20 minutes, and then you crash. I mean, it's a vicious cycle.
It really is.
And then, Kristin, the prefrontal cortex, as you know, all the hemispheres of the brains converge there. That's where you make decisions, and you cannot make good decisions. That's why sometimes we talked about the top 10 professions there. You get all the stress, then you start to just, spill out on other people, garbage in, garbage out. And it really is a vicious cycle. And sometimes you got to say time out, folks. And hopefully we're going to give you some more stuff that'll help you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what you just described, that's burnout, and the dopamine drops too. And so it's so important to rely on motivation. But at that point, what you just described, there's a complete lack of motivation.
There is. You said
science.
Dopamine's the feel-good hormone, and you're not getting it.
Right.
Because you're getting cortisol. So it's like a puzzle, right? Burnout is like a puzzle, and each piece plays an important part. Yeah. And you get it all together. Like you can have a rough area. Maybe I didn't sleep well one night or something, but when it becomes a pattern, and I went through this, I should know, it becomes a pattern, then you're miserable, and then it just gets worse from there. So, with talking about the prefrontal cortex and all the other chemicals of the brain, you've got high stress, low clarity, high emotions. Your amygdala panics during this time. Yeah. It's like there's something wrong, this pattern, and it starts to really affect us. So
that's that burnout trifecta. And I think, Ron, I really think what you were talking about, I'm thinking about people that aren't performing also. So if you have someone, let's say, we were really meant to achieve in life, humans were. Yeah. And so even someone like a homemaker, right? Well, what happens when the homemaker doesn't get up and do the things around the house, isn't bringing the kids to soccer or whatever they have going on? What happens when she's on the couch and it starts this vicious cycle because she hasn't achieved, right? And so I start there because it is the basics of, we are designed to achieve, whatever that may be. And so it's a nasty cycle when you are burnt out, and you have to be able to dig your way out of it, no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah, and folks, we promised you, this is not a long episode, but we do want to point out some possible solutions for you. Now, we never negate that you might need help. You might need to get someone to help you with work if possible, because I hate to throw out things and people go, he doesn't understand me, there's no one to help. We get that. But I'm saying think about all the possible resources that you might have, from counseling, therapy, or someone to just, fill in for you so you can take a vacation, family, friends, even a date night. You got friends that'll help you out. They'll come over and sit probably. So we want to throw out some possible solutions, as we always do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to your point, how do we fix it? We're fixing the system, not the person. So I think that's an important piece. What does that look like, Ron?
Yeah, and I'm glad that we brought this out, because for years, we always look at that person, as we said, and we don't realize that it might be a system problem. Like someone has an accident in the car and you're going, well, that person can't drive. Well, it turns out the brakes went out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's something larger there. So if you are a manager or you're a CEO or whatever, and you're getting high burnout, you need to look in the mirror. You need to figure out what the system is doing to these people. So you can't self-care in a broken system. It just doesn't happen. And you always have some extraordinary employees that's going to survive anything. But you're not going to adjust to that workload if you're feeling all the things we said, confusion, and you're not sleeping and all those things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, we've talked about wellness programs. It's been a while since we've brought them up, but that was a hot button topic for the workplace. And, wellness programs alone aren't going to fix this.
No, they're not. So let's look at the system. Some things that you can do is try to give the employees a little more control, a little more autonomy. It reduces stress. Give people input. We've talked a lot about psychological safety and autonomy. Kristin, when I do executive coaching and we're talking about hedge words, I always say that you want to do two things. You want to lead with specifics, and people will respond with specifics. And then you want to provide autonomy. Here's this is free coaching, folks. If I said, Kristin, can you meet for lunch tomorrow at noon at, we'll say McDonald's?
That would be a hell no. Try again.
See what I'm working with here, folks. Try to act like you're just a commoner like the rest of us, Kristin.
Oh, boy.
Kristin, give me a
Do you
Oregon
know who
restaurant.
I am, sir?
Do a shout out to an Oregon restaurant. Give me one.
Well, we don't eat chain restaurants here.
No, any restaurant.
Oh, any restaurant?
Favorite.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. The Charter House.
My God, I'm trying to... Oh, okay, Charter House. Hey, Kristin, I'm in town. You want to meet at noon at the Charter House. Let's say you're tied up for an hour. What are you likely to say to me?
Oh, wow. So I am busy. So you're giving me a scenario.
You've got a meeting.
I've already got something going on. Got it.
So I go,
okay.
Kristin, you want to meet for lunch at 12 at the Charter House?
Yeah.
How are you going to respond?
I'd be like, oh, unfortunately, I already have a meeting at that exact time. How about later?
Yeah. See
how about the next day?
See how specific you're being at that exact time. And a lot of people will counteroffer. I could do 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you're like, great. So we're always leading if we're cognizant of it. People are in, we call it the loop, the psychological loop. So the robotic loop, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And they will just follow. So people who understand communication at a high level and influence can literally you're just kind of guiding people right in the direction that you want them to go. Now, we coach people to use their superpowers for good, but anyway, we digress.
No, I think that's great. A great example, because I think I've shared with you maybe once before that I had a boss. I was a branch manager. I had my the executive manager come in from the region, and he was like, I want to take you to lunch today. Well, I lived close enough to home. I went home to see my daughter, who was a toddler at the time. She expected me to be there every day on my lunch break. And I would go home for a half hour and then come back, right? And I was like, I'm sorry, my daughter's expecting me. And he was so taken aback. And I stayed firm on that because I had expectations and my daughter would have been really sad. But he kept pushing and pushing. And I was like, I'm sorry. And then I did the whole thing. How about later in the week? Or what about next week? I need some forewarning so I can let her know I'm not going to be home today for lunch. But I do think there's, and that's that control piece. Ron, for me, the difference is I'm a confident person. And I also, at that point, I was happy staying in the position I was in for a few years. I wasn't looking to move up the chain because I was raising young children. And so... that's a big difference. I think that a lot of people that were maybe less confident or were really trying to prove themselves would have just dropped their
are you kidding me,
lunch
Kristin?
with their
90% of people would have dropped their kid and said, oh, the boss wants to go to lunch. That's great. No, exactly. Let me get to the autonomy, though, since brought up the story. So I'm just going to do an example. We talk about managing up. Let's say you're my manager and I want you to go over a report. We might have done this once before, folks, but please understand that I am getting amazing results from coaching by people using this. And you got to be confident, but I would say, Kristin, can you meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. or 3 p.m. to discuss that report that I submitted? For you, number one, let's say you're tied up both those times, you're going to counteroffer. The other thing is I gave you 2 times. That means I just gave you autonomy.
Yes.
If I'd have just said, can you meet tomorrow at 9, that can be frustrating. But I've said, I've given you a morning option and an afternoon option. You might literally say, I'm not free at either of those times, but I'm free at 2 p.m. or the next day. You're leading, but you're giving people autonomy. And even in sales, if you can give people options, they're way more prone to strike, and purchase.
And what you're doing is right by giving 2, because then if you give too many, right? Like I've had people say, name a time and date. That for me, my mind goes, blah, like that's too much, right? And so I like that you're doing you have the morning and then you have the late afternoon. And that works really well for people.
You're going to get me started because you just called out something very important. But Kristin, I will go totally down the coaching road, but you're exactly right. Don't send people pressurized like, hey, just pick a time and place, I'll be there.
I hate that.
Involve yourself. Get involved. Make a decision. People don't get offended. I believe it or not, in the decision-making process, Kristin, we've helped couples just choose a restaurant, the DMP. We've helped couples choose a restaurant and a movie like that.
Yes.
Because there's process. I'm not giving that away. People have to take
it's
coaching
so
if
good.
they want to know that.
You have to. I mean, seriously, it's people. This is a real issue. I see it all the time. You and I, we have so many people that are asking to come on as a guest, which is wonderful. But, what's been helpful, Ron, is you and I have our dates laid out. We're like either Wednesday at this time or Monday at this time, right? Like that's it. And we're not giving them this big open calendar, and it either works or it doesn't. And so I think that there's really something to that, and that restoring control has helped you and I with all these inquiries coming in. It's really helped us remain in control versus catering to all these schedules. What?
Kristin knows I'm a recovering academy director. I'm on time. I respond to every text. I respond. Well, we're grateful, but there were so many wanting to be on the podcast. I'm talking it became 2 and 3 a day with a bio and schedule and all that. I've quit, Kristin. I'm not even, we're booked up. I'll pick it back up at some point, but I had to.
Yeah,
it started,
that's a lot.
I think I was getting burned out, ironically.
Ron got burnt out. I mean, that is, okay, so that is a lot. And what happens is there's bookers out there, and they're trying to book their clients, and they're getting paid to do this. And so naturally, they're going to put as many of their clients in front of show hosts as possible. But what does happen is you can overwhelm and shut people down, which is what's happening, right? You overwhelm to the point of, I'm not going to be able to catch up with this. There's so many coming in that when I have the need, I will go sort through them, right?
Do you know that's how I met you? I had an assistant do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I love it.
You didn't even respond, by the way. I would like for everyone to know this. This was like 3 years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
And
Drew
the funny
did.
thing was I commented on something you posted, and you responded. So I said, hey, I sent something a while back, wanted to come on your show. And
Perfect.
then you responded. So if you want to talk to Kristin, you got to do a social media post, apparently.
Oh my gosh. It's so.
What were we even talking about?
I have people do that on my social. They'll DM. So they'll DM something, but it just gets buried. And then they'll comment and say, hey, go check your DM from me. And then I'll be like, okay, like that. It's just a wild world.
She was too nice
media.
to go, look, I got 250,000 people. Leave me alone.
Oh
Who
my
are you?
gosh. No. I don't know what we were talking about. Oh, we were talking about restoring control.
I'm sorry, it was funny.
No, I love it. I always tell Ron, for those listening, the sweet spot is when we get off topic. Like, I find that to be the most entertaining, and we have a rough outline, and we go off of it often. It's called the weave, right?
Yeah, some people are going, I'm glad it's your sweet spot. I'm getting tired of listening to you guys. All right. So
oh gosh,
we want to reduce that cortisol. We want to reduce that stress. So
Yeah.
these are things that keep in mind. If you're burned out, you don't want to do them, so you're going to have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I've coached people in burnout, and they're like, I don't feel like going for a walk. Well, you got to start somewhere.
I know.
So you need to take real breaks.
Yeah.
I love deep breathing and panoramic gazing. I'm coaching someone right now that for the first time, Kristin, in a year, they've slept multiple days, 7 hours or more.
Wow, that's huge.
Because of getting outside, doing panoramic gaze. You don't focus on anything. You're resting your eyes. You're doing deep breathing. Of course, this is a person of faith. They've got scriptures. I could do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And they are really progressing. And I'm just very excited about it. So when you move around, we sit, we converge, as I said, convergent vision on a screen. We sit. We're not doing any exercise. You need all of that. You need that vitamin E. Get outside. You need to move around.
Yeah.
And then mental resets, which can come in a lot of different ways. But when the bad thoughts come in, you've got to guard yourself because you can just go into a deep, dark pit. So you got to learn to say, no, I'm going to get over this. Now, some people, even though this shouldn't be, they're like, another hour to go. If that's what it takes to motivate you, you know, they're looking at their watch, then use it. But have some mental resets and don't let your mind get too far out of control.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Not, like to your point, like don't just push through, have something to it. You know, I think it's important. I used to be towards the end of my banking career, I managed a department. And so it was like a cube farm, right? Where everyone has their own cubicle.
Yeah.
There were times where I would be burnt out. And so then I would organize my desk, organize my workstation in my office. And then I'd go back to it. Like I had to get up and I was doing something physical, going through files and so I did that, you know, for a half an hour, and then I would feel refreshed. It's just changing the scene. Something else I did, I would actually go in the lunchroom if I was feeling burnt out. I would go in and actually take my lunch, remove myself from the desk space or the office. And I remember people going, oh my gosh, you're my hero. And I'm like, for what? They're like eating in here away from your desk. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's sad, kind of sad. But you have to do those things.
And Kristin, this will resonate with you, but I was coaching someone on this and they said, I take breaks, but I don't feel any better. I said, well, talk to me about your break. They go, you know, I get off the computer and I check my social media. They're going from one, you know, isolated visionary thing to another, and it doesn't work. You can't just go on your social media all the time. You need literally to get outside and chill out. You need a different environment like you did.
Yeah, you do.
So in little ways, I talk about the basal ganglia, and that's the area that releases dopamine. So you need micro goals. This is getting really technical. Goal minimalization means you make big goals look small. Micro goals, you need to award yourself. If you cleaned that desk or you straightened up your workspace, that is, you need to say, that's a win. I just had a win. If you take your walk, record in your brain, that's a win.
Yeah.
And be very specific about it. I was a really good email that I sent. You set micro goals, and then you have some small wins, and you record those in your brain, and it gets your brain functioning again. You start to feel like a winner instead of a loser.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else I want to jump into is the boundaries, especially for people that are helpers. This is really a big one, Ron.
Yeah, it is. And we did that important episode, the one word that'll change your life. And that word, of course, is no.
Yes.
And we've broken that down a lot. I'm going to share a quick story because it's a dentist story, and Kristin loves dentists. So, Kristin, I chipped my front tooth since the last time you and I talked.
Really? Okay.
But it's a composite.
Let me adjust my headset for this. All right, for this story.
It's a composite, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the dentist. He knows me, so we chat. He does ask me about coaching and stuff. So he comes in and he looks at it and he goes, Ron, it's the second time, by the way. And he said, well, this would be the third time it'd be repaired. So he goes, I'm thinking we need to cap that, get it more solid and all that. He said, because this happened in January of 2024.
Oh, wow.
So I said, Doc, January 2024, that's 2 years. Like I was either going to pay $750 for a cap and then, or, $89 for a composite.
Yeah.
And I said, 2 years, $89. I said, I think that's a pretty good bargain. I'm going to get you to just go ahead and put another composite on there. And he just looked at me for a minute. He goes, all right. I said, but I want you to do the best composite that's ever been done. I want this one to last 3 years. Are you with me?
Nice.
He looked at me. He went, it's going to be the best composite you got. Now, that's funny, but that's how I operate. But, Kristin, there's people that would never have the nerve to do that, and they would pay that $879.
Oh, totally.
And, I used every coaching technique on him. I validated his point, but I gave him, I stood up to what I wanted, let him know what I wanted, and then I challenged him to do the best. So it was fun and, got a little laugh, but I walked out, I paid my $89, and I think this is going to last for 3 years.
There you go. Hey, I love that.
I knew a lady who her cosmetologist ruined her hair, and she didn't have the nerve to tell her. Walked out upset.
Yeah, that is not a good feeling. She
No,
probably
it's not.
felt like, what can I do about it at this point, right?
Yeah, but there was things she could have done, right?
Yeah.
It was uneven. So I'm just saying there's
that
people that
sucks.
get walked on.
I know.
And they never learn the power of no. They never learn the power of speaking up. They never learn the power to
it's
make
true.
decisions that benefits them instead of what they, the fear that they have.
Yeah.
So go back and listen to that episode, folks, of the One Word That'll Change Your
Yeah.
Life. It's a really good episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's big.
What else can people do, Kristin?
Well, aligning purpose. I mean, people don't burn out from hard work. They're burning out from when work feels meaningless or misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on misalignment earlier. So you want to reconnect them to impact.
Yeah, that's good. Let's go to another one, energy management.
Yeah.
Burnout isn't a time problem, it's an energy problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're already tired, you're not sleeping, of course, you're going to just move more and more toward burnout, right?
Right, absolutely. And that's where my sister's like, she's going back to work. She just had a baby and she's at that 3.5 months and now she's going back to work. So, and she's gonna be tired and she's someone that really does need their full night of sleep. So she's already working on energy management at this point, knowing she's going back in a few days.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredibly important. And that's that emotional, physical, emotional, people stress, physical, sleep, movement, and then purpose, your meaning, the meaning behind what you're doing. Very important.
That's what holistic means, is that you're hitting it from all directions to keep yourself solid, like your sister will have to do for a while. She's going to focus on all aspects, mental, emotional, physical, purpose, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that she's even thinking about that before she goes back is so smart. I didn't, right? Like I knew I was going to be sleep deprived going back to work, but I wasn't planning all of this. And I'm a big mental prep person. So I think she's doing the right things here.
Yeah. So folks, just to summarize, if you are dealing with burnout, you feel like you're feeling burned out, start somewhere. Do something differently than you did yesterday, or you're just going to be in that pattern. So if it's a short break, remember, if you can get outside, if you can do some deep breathings, babies breathe deep, adults breathe shallow. Try to take time off. Don't take a working vacation. Take a real vacation. Do whatever, and if you need to ask for help, do it, because you got to get out of this cycle. You don't want to live this way for too long, and then it leads to health problems and other problems.
Yes.
And, Kristin,
go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, I want... That was really funny. I have to ask you, because you led at a higher level than I ever did. Okay. So do you think it's wise advice for someone to make their leadership or their superior aware that they are feeling burnt out?
That's the $1 million question, because it depends on the supervisor. We talk about psychological safety. And keep in mind, I was in federal law enforcement. I know your husband deals with it. If you're a cop and you go in and say, I'm having mental health or I'm burned out or whatever, they might take your gun.
Yeah.
And so I led the charge when I was over the National Wellness Committee to try to get rid of that stigma. that you could get help. And that's also a vicious cycle, but it's also this dichotomy of one way you're saying you want to help police, but we're going to remove your law enforcement ability. So it's still not where it needs to be. There's been some progress, but I do think that's a great question.
Yeah.
For me, Kristin, is a lot of mine was just mental rehearsal, because I constantly, I just had lunch with the former academy director, and we're able to talk about things that I can't talk about with other people that she totally understands, and it's so
that shared experience.
That shared experience.
Yeah.
And so we talked about stuff, we laughed, things that frustrated us, but it was so good for me. And so it depends on the individual when we're talking about reset, recovery. It depends on you, but try to think what can I control? In other words, what's at my options? And you can usually take some breaks. You can definitely breathe. So start somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I think that's one benefit to being in the Pacific Northwest that is progressive in some ways, because, I mean, they're progressive in a lot of ways here, but that stigma, like with the Portland Police Department, I feel like, and of course it's always going to be a baseline there, but things are handled much differently in the Northwest when it comes to mental health than it is like the rest of the country. And so, that's a really valid point you're making there. People do need to be careful, depending on what industry they're in, to be open and honest about that. So sad but true. One of those situations. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us in this important episode. Again, people have been asking for a burnout episode for some time now. If you're experiencing burnout, speak up and get help. And like we said, we've outlined who you speak up to and who you don't necessarily.
Yeah, and if you're in a position of influence, speak up, help change the culture.
Yeah.
Do your part to make people feel better. Kristin, we've got some really exciting episodes coming up. What could people do to support the podcast?
Definitely. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Share us out. That is huge. Word of mouth is very powerful. And leave a review or rate us, RATE. We would love to see those ratings increase. As that increases, then we are then shown to people looking for a podcast in leadership. So we appreciate that.
That's right. Yeah, I was able to explain to someone yesterday about the podcast that we took an entertaining view. And as you know, our previous guest, Chris Dudley, the gubernatorial candidate, he loved that idea. He I'm sure he was about to go on another interview, and it's going to be way more serious, but he realized that people need to enjoy life a little bit. So that's what we try to do. Bring you a little learning, but a little happiness in here along with it.
Yeah. We want you to laugh at least 2 times an episode, at least. That's the goal here, right?
That's right. All right, everybody. Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.